God. Yeah, I made the pictures up. Zipper's all fucked up. Oh, my homeless pants. Pyramid's fucking cold. I haven't changed my clothes since December 12th. My hair's kind of a mess today, but that's okay. My hair's gonna be doing weird things throughout this whole thing. Every shot's gonna be different. This is a recording studio at 17 Frost Street. It's also attached to this art gallery. And this is a graffitied bathroom. Mae West said, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. We're just philosophers here. It's philosophy everywhere. The ladder's graffiti. The refrigerator's graffiti. Everything. So that is attached to this. This is a theater. So when I record bands, we record out here. Really nice high ceilings, pretty dead sound, it's good. This box here is an EMT reverb plate. It's a giant thing, it's great. It's a sheet of steel on the inside, the sound goes through it and makes it sound like it has an echo. I collect amplifiers too. Most of them I get broken and I fix. And this is the control room. 1985 MCI 3036 mixing board, 36 channels. I have always written songs since the time I picked up an instrument. I mean, because the idea was to express myself, and especially the guitar, because I'd come from a classical background where I was taught bassoon and saxophone, and the future of that meant playing somebody else's music for the rest of your life. And I thought, well, no, I want to be able to pick up an instrument and play when I'm feeling my own music. This is what you might call a Frankenstein guitar. I got it from my friend Danny Hirsch. He was a bass player in the Outsets. This guitar was in two pieces in his house. This is a 1962 body, it's a 1973 neck. I put it together, and then I realized that it was warbling. It's like, so then I took some epoxy and glued the whole thing together. A good electric guitar you can hear without the guitar being plugged in. If you play it and you feel this vibration and you feel the woods working with everything, it resonates. It just, a note lasts. See how nice the guitar sounds? It's like a pet dog can be really vicious. You know, the dog's really friendly to you, and you're dogging along, smiling, you play catch. But if someone bothers you, or the dog wants to get mean, it can get really mean. You know.
When I first met Ivan, I said, "Who is this guy? Who's this guy? Who's the new guy on the block?" Kind of thing. You always feel that way, who thinks they're gonna take a piece of your turf? Ivan was the only African-American person in the punk rock scene. And there haven't been a lot of black folks in the East Village scene since, really. I think that Ivan has always been his own man, to follow his own love, his own desire. He's got that kind of spirit. He's his own man.
I'm making two albums. One's gonna be what I call an acoustic album. It's gonna be kind of acoustic, but like not soft, like la la la, just, different kinds of strings. And the other one's gonna be like a funkish kind of album. I'm working on it right now, here at the studio. As I look back on all the years, seems that troubles followed us from town to town, mile for mile. It's been like this for many days, as if the candles of our love have blown away. Once there was passions there, and now there is only bitter tears. A faded flower turned to gray. My great-grandfather was a carpenter. He built like all these houses in this town of Virginia. Like, he would drive to the town, he built every single house. Pretty amazing. I'm not a carpenter. I like doing it, but wood's fascinating actually. It's basically just this stuff and you make it into blocks and then you make it into other things and it's beautiful. I was born on June 26, 1955 in Washington, D.C. My father was in the Navy. My parents having a complicated relationship. They didn't seem to like each other very much. My next real memory is we moved to Cuba. We moved to Guantanamo Bay. It's a pivotal moment in my life because it's kind of what shaped a lot of the ideals that I have even today about things, people, places.
Into the American Naval Base at Norfolk, Virginia comes the merchant transport, the Upshur, carrying 1,700 dependents of U.S. servicemen who were only a few days ago at Guantanamo, the mighty U.S. base in Cuba.
I was raised in a Navy military family. I was expected to follow that path. I was expected to exceed that path. And there's nothing else I have a passion for, and that's something that was really important to me as a kid. When I made this decision was I wanted to be what I did. It was important for me to be the thing that, and have a passion for it. I've drilled holes in this thing, I've glued it, I've clamped it, and it turns out what was is these little pins here that have crud in them and it makes it buzz. It's good. This piano is 105 years old. I'm gonna make it sound like it was born yesterday. Now everything's settled and it's not buzzing anymore, it's all glued. I'm gonna tune it up again, and I can finally record 2 or 3 songs with it for this record. So that's my goal.
I think Ivan brings a lot of the spirit of early rock and roll, early Chuck Berry, even in his rhythm playing. It's in there because he understands it. I love soul music for one thing, and I could tell he was bringing rhythms that were more deeply rooted in R&B and the heart of rock and roll. A lot of what a guitar player must do is not with the dexterity, even though he is dexterous. It's what's happening in the mind, because you have to have a history of rock and roll. And Ivan can play the entire history of rock and roll in one solo.
Takes me. Where's it taking me?
To me, that's the most notable about his playing is that as well as he played in 1976, when we formed, he's gotten better every decade.
There are a lot of people now who've come after him, and I hear those little sensibilities in music.
We put an ad in a magazine called Musicians Classified. It was just like a kind of giveaway magazine as far as I remember. So that's one of the places we advertised when we were looking for a second guitarist for the Voidors. We had me, Robert Quine, Mark Bell.
I started reading the paper, and on this front cover is this guy named Richard Hell, whatever downtown poet, whatever artist, is starting his new band. He's left the Heartbreakers. He's not with them anymore. I go to this rehearsal studio called Daily Planet, and there's this guy sitting there with the bass with like red glasses on. There's this guy behind the drums with long hair. And there's this other guy, but it looked like some kind of college professor guy with glasses. And the college professor guy was kind of running the rehearsal. And they would show me some of the things that they were doing. Like, so, like, okay, we have this song, and they would start to play it. And then we have this song, and they start to play it. They had like 3 songs or something like that. That was my first audition in the city. I'm there and I'm playing. And at the end of the rehearsal, said, we want you in the band. Quine was kind of designated to find the guitar player. The kind of band they wanted, it fashioned after the Yardbirds, Clapton and Beck. He had 2 guitar players. Both would play solos. It wasn't like one lead guitar player and one rhythm guitar player.
The Voidoids were definitely one of the prototype for the music that was coming out at that time. The way they kind of blended and interchanged with each other.
The beauty of that original band, Richard Hell and the Voidoids, is they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And they just kept trying to sound great through a really weird spectrum of ideas.
Voidoids were absolute opposite of Styx and Journey and all that corporate rock in the early 70s.
Dictators, the Heartbreakers, the Ramones, we were kind of like, fuck art, let's rock. They were like, hey, I like art, and let's rock.
I liked their stuff. I liked what they were doing. I thought Blank Generation was called Black Generation.
The music was very different. Richard Hell wrote a lot of the songs with Ivan and Bob, and a lot of them were bass-driven. They were hard to play.
The Voidoids, to me, were beat poetry. They reminded me more of that kind of no-wave stuff.
Every once in a while in America, the rest of the country looks to New York for what style is. That's kind of what the Voidoids were. But again, they were such a quick flash. The music industry really couldn't figure out what to do with it.
Maybe today punk rockers can play that shit, but back in the day, punk rockers could play like 3 chords and just jam it out. This stuff had way too many very, very sophisticated inclinations.
Richard had this song, and we just started it 1, 2, 3. That's what was there. So Richard says we need an intro. I don't know, I just played it. It just came out of me. I mean, I've never sat and go, well, like, why? D minor, there's no D minor. This. I'm sorry, I love it. That you hit that chord, it just says, fuck everything, get out of my way. This is 1976 in the spring, and it's decided that we record the record at Electric Lady Studios. That was exciting. This is Jimi Hendrix's studio. I couldn't believe it. I mean, of all the studios in New York that we get to record there. We recorded there for a month. Then Richard decided that he hated it. It's announced that we're going to make the entire record again. It was great being Electric Lady and all that, but it wasn't our best performance in terms of a record. We used these giant amplifiers, because they were there and everything was just kind of big and clunky sounding. I didn't think it would justify making the record again, but I was young and didn't know you could do stuff like that. So we ended up going to Plaza Sound.
They found something, and they were doing something completely different. So, I mean, you can't even put them with the Ramones and a lot of the other stuff that sort of came out that was really, I guess, considered punk rock. I don't even know what punk rock is.
The first time I heard the word punk was There was this magazine called Punk Magazine, started by John Holstrom and Legs McNeil. Just like as Rock Scene covered the Max's thing and a glam thing, they covered basically CBGBs and the bands there.
Punk Magazine pretty much nicknamed punk rock. It was the only thing that separated it from just rock and roll.
And that's the first time it was defined as punk rock. A genre, a category. That was the first time I heard it was from this magazine. I mean, and none of us thought, oh, we're making punk, or this is punk, or and to this day, I don't believe that, because to me, punk is an attitude to way you approach your life and you approach things, which basically means, I try to be honest about the whatever music I make. I present it honestly, and I take no shit.
The word blank caught that moment in the late 70s perfectly.
It was blank because people didn't think there was any future. People, you know what I mean? People were very iconoclastic, nihilistic
generation,
right? People thought it was like the end of the world, basically.
Punk has a range of emotions. I mean, it's aggressive. It can be softer. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be romantic.
People try to liken all punk to punk. It's just not the same. Those early years, when there was no word called punk, they were just making something new. I mean, that was very special.
The attitude was, this is a blank slate, and we're going to put new rock and roll ideas on this blank slate. And if you dig it, you dig it. If you don't, who cares? We don't care.
Contribution musically all came from my head. It didn't come from my playing, it didn't come from
fighting and pulling each other's hair out. Quine was a jazzbo who didn't really like rock and roll and just had wanted nothing to do with it, and was into his jazz. That was my first impression, and I was equally right and wrong about everything.
It was random, we fell together. Always with the success of bands or their lack of success. Most of it's luck.
But those secret bands, those secret histories, that's what we musicians love. We go find the Robert Johnsons, we go find the Charlie Parkers, and we go find the Richard Hell and the Voidoids.
I gotta say something about Ivan. I tell you, coming up, it's kind of funny to be a rock and roll person of color, black guy playing guitar, and and to see you as part of the Voidoids was, I can't tell you how important that was. But there was a handful of brothers that making it happen, and we, coming up, it was so important to have people to look towards. People that were in it and really making it happen.
It had a lot of significance for people like us who were looking at punk rock as, something that we could be part of, but yet, in a way, it was like the fabric of America.
So the punk scene was very much a white scene, and to have a brother in that scene with playing guitar and making it work was a huge thing, because Prince doing Little Red Corvette was a big deal to hear that on the radio. But to see you hitting with Richard and Robert, and that was, because that makes it, that's in front of me.
He was a symbol of a person that could do it, who wasn't just a white guy from the suburbs, but this kind of guy from an urban background and played in soul and R&B bands, and then suddenly comes to New York and creates this sound that's completely different.
He broke the color line. He broke it. He came in. He was the guy. He came in and he said, look, I'm me. This is who I am. And you're going to take it or leave it, but I'm going to still be me.
Let's talk about punctuation. Richard had this song, Love Comes in Spurts. heard that and I thought, well, I mean, and that's what Quine played. And I thought, no, let's make some rhythm on it. And let's kind of, take it somewhere. So I basically punctuated what was happening, which is if you hear one speaker there's Quine doing that, and the other speaker there's me going. I know this is my dress code, right? I got your dress code right here. These are leg warmers. This guy, this bass player, Matthew's band, would make fun of me. God, man, that went out with the 80s. Yeah, but Cole didn't go out with the 80s, okay? I miss platform shoes. It's fun putting on a pair of shoes and all of a sudden being 7 inches higher. And then that's just the norm. It's not like everybody else is 7 inches higher too.
He would tell me, I would draw it, I would make it. These wild clothes with cutout holes and like just outrageous things.
Ivan did this complete show in a ballroom gown. He wore a ballroom gown, and it was very bizarre, but yet it worked.
He really liked ruffled shirts. He liked women's clothes. We used to shop near 14th Street at this place. He'd find a woman's raincoat, vinyl raincoat, black, fake. And then he'd get like 3 of them because he knew like he loved the coat and he'd love it forever.
I heard someone once say I would wear velvet every day if it were socially acceptable. And I wear it anyway. We were recording a song called Swing Your Lantern that was written by my friend Will. Who's also partners in the studio. I produced his band, produced this record many years ago, and I decided that on this record I'm gonna re-record it and I'm gonna cover it myself. I mean, the idea is just kind of make this band for this song. This is Maddie and this is Haley. They're assisting on the session. This is Trevor. Trevor's come a long way, many miles to come play with us. This is Will. He's the writer of the song, the co-writer. This is Al Maddie, legendary guitar player. Is going to be playing electric acoustic with us tonight. And out of retirement is Mr. James Burt.
Out of bass retirement, but I've been listening to Ivan since I was a teenager, so can't say no to Ivan.
First one? The first one is a song, yeah. The first one is like, you know what I mean? It's got song in it, yeah.
There you go.
In my mind, the Voidoids were over when Mark left. Not that I'm I mean, just musically, that chemistry, that thing that made, a lot of people like the second album, kind of, which I'm not even on. I'm not on Destiny Street. But it was over then. It was on tenuous ground ever since that happened because, that core thing that made the music just wasn't, all the elements weren't there. But, I mean, and on top of that, Richard really didn't want to tour that much. And I came to New York into the Voidoids as a touring musician, and I wanted to make records, and I wanted to continue to do that.
So I was the first one to leave. I called Richard and said, it's done. It was just basically because there's too much downtime, in my mind. All the other bands from my era, like, Blondie, Talking Heads, Ramones, Patty, they were all working all the time and playing all the time and touring all the time. And we were lucky to, to do something once a month. Richard had this idea that he only wanted to play punk venues. That was his thing. We're only playing punk venues. Problem was there were no punk venues. That's when I started the Outsets. I'm gonna do my own.
The Outsets started in 1981, and this was after a few attempts by Richard Howell to get the Voidoids back, do some playing.
I mean, because, initially I came to New York to do my own band anyway, but then when I thought, well, I need to play, and then when I ran into the Voidoids, like basically my first month here, after that I thought, I'm gonna start my own band.
And we started playing what we interpreted it as punk funk rooted. We started recording, put out a few EPs. Garland Jeffries recorded one EP.
I really didn't know what to do first. And then I clicked in. The best thing I can do is let this band be what it is.
By 80, 81, the scene had changed a lot. I pretty much thought punk rock was pretty much done by that time. I thought he had more fun with the lyrics, funky beat and Siamese.
In my opinion, Ivan's one of the 3 best guitar players in New York. Now, some people maybe disagree, but he's definitely in the top 5.
What you had in New York at that time is you had Richard Lloyd, Tom Verlaine, Ivan Julian, Bob Quine. Those were your guitar combos that were unbeatable and unique.
Ivan could make the most in-tune guitar sound out of tune, and in a very charming way.
Not being perfect gives personality. Sometimes when you're stretching for a note, you communicate the lyrics better. And if you hit the note right on.
Even when I would play with Ivan, I'd always go, how do I doctor that? Because he's got so much dissonance in those notes.
You can hear that he's making it a weapon.
And sometimes if as a guitarist, when I would play with him, he would even look at me and goes, that's too obvious, that's too sane, it should be more like blah. You go, oh wow, how do I get blah? And that's what he was going for. Ivan was always bartering with the devil on those notes.
Recording the tape is a much more direct process. It's like you kind of plug a couple of things in and you push record and you go. There's not many options to like recording onto analog tape, and it's kind of simpler because your mind isn't clouded with all these other options and things that might not be set right or could go this way or that way. It's just boom, record. It's like kind of put the smile on it. These two are LA2A compressors. I built these. People told me they wanted them. I've actually built probably close to 15 of them. What drove me, it was really strange, is I wanted to see the needle go backwards. Because when these are working, these needles don't move forwards like most needles, they go backwards. And I was obsessed with that. And also, in how they sound. Aretha, they used to use these for Aretha Franklin's voice a lot.
These are all tube preamps. The four at the bottom are Ampex preamps. They use these at Sun Studios when they recorded Elvis. One of them we got from Capitol Records out in LA. And there's a picture of Frank Sinatra with one of these. These are tubes. They don't use them anymore because they use a lot of voltage. It's a much softer sound, a much warmer sound. Nothing sounds like tubes, nothing. It is one of the last analog studios in New York, and especially with the space. You know, with the amount of space we have, it's pretty phenomenal to have like this much room in New York City for anything, even a supermarket, you know?
It's a grouping of really well thought out notes that are putting in emotion that make you just go like, your eyes pop out, you know.
Abstract idea that what I do is I wake up and I chase a tone. I chase a sine wave. I chase a sound. This aesthetic thing, you know, this thing that's not really, I mean, it exists in the ether, and that's what I pursue. And that's how I choose to try to make a living. And that's what it is. It's actually, you're chasing this tone, regardless of what kind of musician you are, this sound that you imagine and you want to make, or that you've heard and you want to reproduce. It's a sound. It's like this thing that's going, I'm looking for the sound. I can't quite find it yet.
But he's got this angular thing too, and he can adapt to a lot of different styles very easily, but it's always Ivan, you know. I always know it's Ivan playing guitar.
It's a very wild collaboration. It's always a first date when Ivan grabs the guitar.
Sometimes I have a hard time hearing people talking, you know, but I never have problems hearing tones.
Especially when he does his solo. It just takes off. It transcends.
Let's talk about the foundations for a second. I mean, it's like, those guys, they have amazing songwriters, amazing performers, taught me pretty much everything I know about being a professional musician and being on the road and working really hard. I mean, they would play 2 cities in the same day, have the equipment set up for them in the second city while they played the first, and we would all jump in the car and run and, you know, drive, I don't know, 100 kilometers, 60 miles or so. But their chords, I've used their chords a lot.
The great guitar players, like someone like an Eric Clapton, who's considered a great virtuoso, he understands the blues and he uses that when he plays. And Ivan has that understanding for rock and roll. So that's why people want to work with him. That's why I wanted to work with him before I even met him. He understands music from the inside out. So we would just talk for hours about the roots of what we're doing now, you know, understanding it. I think that's an important thing with an artist, is to understand the history of what you're doing.
The best musicians, in my mind, know when not to play as opposed to when to play. That was a strict lesson that I learned from the foundation, because it was pop music. This wasn't like rock and roll, or rock music, I should say, with lots of long guitar solos and you're able to riff out the whole time. You know, it's just like short solo, 8 bars, maybe 4, shut up, play the chords, you know, push the song. I like to write and record and play music. So to me, if I'm producing an album, or if I'm playing guitar in somebody's band, or if I have my own band, I'm playing music. You know, I really don't care. It's like if I'm playing music, I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing. The story with me and the Clash goes back to the beginning, actually. I play with the Foundations, and then I go back to New York, and I meet Richard, and I join the Voidoids. And our first tour is a tour of England opening for the Clash. We start doing the tour, we start hanging out, we become friends. Mick invites me over his house. Another year or so passes. They come to New York to record Sandinista, and basically just set themselves up inside of Electric Lady Studios. And they called me and said, well, you know, hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. And they said, come on down. So I went there to just kind of to say hello. And then they started playing on this riff. I thought, wow. So I said, you know, give me a guitar. So they gave me Joe's guitar, so I started playing along with them. And we started jamming on this thing called The Call Up. It's up to you not to hear the call up. I don't wanna die. It's up to you not to hear the call up. I don't wanna kill. That rhythm seemed right for what they were doing, you know. It's just, I mean, I wasn't trying to play reggae or ska because, you know, just like it was just a rhythm part, and like, and it had a nice chord progression. I thought that was that, and we did another song. I mean, then I told them the story about me going to Studio 54 and getting in a, you know, altercation with this bouncer when him and I were the only ones in the whole place, because it was after Studio 54 was all that, and he was like kind of following me around to see what I was doing, and that pissed me off. So I told him that story, and we started playing on another thing, and that became Ivan Meets G.I. Joe. So, but I thought these were just jams. It's not like, oh, I'm playing on your record, blah, blah. It's nothing formal or anything like that. Then I guess another 6 months or so passes, and Mick calls me and says, hey, you should contact Columbia Records, they have a check for you. I said, for what? He goes, for playing on the single from the Sandinista. So that's how that whole thing came about. It just kind of just happened, you know? In the 80s, I rented myself out. I was playing with a band called Shriekback that was doing really well. I played with Sandra Bernhardt for a couple of years. And in the 90s, when my son was born, I needed more money, so I went out and I rented myself out to Matthew Sweet. And that lasted like 6 years, you know. Robert Quine had played on Matthew's Girlfriend record, so he recommended me to be the touring guitar player. So then I started touring with Matthew, and that lasted until like 97, playing on his records, touring with him, you know, all over the world.
One of the first really guitar overdoses I ever had in my life, in a good way, was seeing Ivan Julian as the guitar player for Matthew Sweet. And the guitar playing, you didn't watch Matthew the whole show or even listen to the songs hardly. It was just about Ivan Julian from the start of the show to the finish, and I'll never forget it.
And I wrote the Naked Flame in the 90s, actually. I mean, the song. But yeah, it didn't occur to me to run out and, you know, tour with it. It's like I was, you know, playing with Matthew at the time. I'm not here to try to deceive you. I came to these ashes just to be by your side. Come on and take my hand and try to be courageous.
Well, Naked Flame, I had no idea he was making the record or had planned on you know, touring me on the record or anything.
I was taught in school that there's no sound in outer space because there's a vacuum. But they just found a volcano or something on Jupiter, and they heard it. They heard this thing on Jupiter. So if they're hearing it on Jupiter, there must be sound in the vacuum. So that means when you play a note, boom, and it goes out, it keeps going out into outer space. So if you were in tune to A 440 hertz, that 440 cycles is universal. It's everywhere. So theoretically, when Chopin first sat down to write his sonatas and to a on the piano, that note, that chord is out there somewhere. That's what we should be chasing. When I hear sound, I see it as like maybe a box that has not only a front, but it has sides, and it has a top, and it has a bottom, and it has a back. If you think of any great song you've ever heard, the sound of the song complements the song as well. You know what I mean? It's like not just the person playing or the person singing, the actual sound of the recording. Almost always, that's not just the gear, but it's the room. You know, the room and the invisible person in the band. Today's January 23rd, 2016. Last fall, around October, I was diagnosed with cancer. I have cancer. Then I've been to chemo and radiation 5 days a week, every week, in an effort to cure this. It's been the most painful experience of my life. We're now going to an MRI center, and what's going to happen with that is they're going to scan me. I have to get these scans every 3 or 4 months or so. A speedy recovery, but it wasn't. But the very fact that I recovered at all, you know, it's kind of amazing to them and me. So they just want to check on it to make sure. People come up to me and they go, "Oh, you beat it." I didn't beat anything. It let go of me, you know. The benefit in the concert, and I just met all the friends, and it was amazing actually. I mean, dare I say, as one person put it, like only Ivan gets to go to his own funeral. It's like, you know, people had nice things to say and all that, and you know, you go through your life, you never know, like how many friends you have or who they are, or you know, you just try to do your thing.
In punk rock, we've helped each other as a community. You know, that's the idea. We felt apart from the rest of the world in a way, and wanted to support each other when we were in time of need.
And I'm still grateful. I still don't realize the extent what it took for people like Debbie Harry and Richard Held is like, you know, kind of stop their schedules and come, and all the other people as well that I, you know, played with or worked with over the years. Just go, no, we're going to stop. We're going to do this. It's overwhelming and it's grateful. Also, I mean, I felt really good being responsible for bringing everybody together, you know, because a lot of these people hadn't seen each other in, you know, whatever, 30 years or so, you know, and all been in one room. I thought if nothing else comes from this, you know, all these people came together for this one cause, and it was really cool. It was great. I mean, it made me feel good about it. The general support, you know, that kept me, you know, away from a lot of stress, a zero stress level, like zero stress, nothing, and then you can heal faster. If death is right there and you realize that you may go there and you're not coming back, of course, your mind tends to go back. reflect on just the amazing journey. Just think of all the things you've done just in the past year, and you reflect on those, like, or maybe you reflect on years later. And it's this amazing journey where one day you're here, one day you're in this country, one day you're doing this, one day you're working with this person. It's just a journey, and you want the journey to continue because you realize what an amazing journey it is. Please ring the bell. So we're going to go downstairs. The brain cell. Yeah. I have an appointment for 2:15. My last name's Julian. What happened there is, like, they didn't have me scheduled at the radiation center for this scan thing. This is typical of the kind of thing that goes on inside the hospital system. The way it was explained to me is that my immune system is weak, from the radiation and from the chemo, and the cold exacerbates it and makes it worse. A shrink once told me, listen to your inner voice. My inner voice tells me, your body doesn't need radiation right now. I was very lucky to have good doctors that not only addressed the chemo and the radiation part of it, but also the psychological part of it. That's what was going through my head. It's like, okay, I have good care around me. I'm being told to get rid of, the alleviate stress, not deal with stressful things. I'm still recovering and I still have to pace myself. And my doctor, Dr. Casetta, goes, well, we might start using the R word. And I said, what is the R word? She goes, remission. I thought, okay. They're very cautious because they don't want to say it's gone. They're just going to say remission, which means it's going away.
Someone more